Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy Marshall live, and I am live, and we are back with another episode of the Marshal Gillen Show. It's episode number 142. If you are a weirdo numerologist like me, you were trying to find meaning in that number, and I couldn't today. So maybe not everything has a meaning. I don't know. You guys know I love that shit, though. Hey, you guys, today we are back with another episode where I am bringing to you leaders who have turned their mess into their message. And I'm sharing the stories with you because I want to prove to you that it's possible. It's possible to change your life. It's possible to do a 180-degree turn. It's possible to live the life of your dreams. And I know that sometimes knowing it's possible is not enough. Like sometimes just knowing that it can happen is like, it's not enough. Like you have to believe that these things can happen for you. And personally in my life, I didn't always believe these things could happen. Then I started spending time around more types of better types of people, higher quality people. And I started listening to the stories, and the more stories I heard, I was like, you know what? It's possible for me to accomplish this thing too. So if you're brand new to the Marshall Gillen Show, this show is literally a show about turning your mess into your message and connecting you with leaders who have done just that, so we can inspire, empower, and educate you on how to do the same. Today's guest, I am super excited for. I connected with him about 3 years ago, I think, on Instagram when I was really getting into this primal way of living. Today's guest is a mystic, philosopher, serial entrepreneur, and coach. He helps men reconnect to their authentic selves to unleash their truest power onto the world via his program, the Primal Man Pathway. I want to welcome to the virtual stage my new friend and badass Chase Tolleson. What's up, brother man?
What's up, my friend? That intro, I love it. Such a pro. I love talking with pros.
It's
And talking about numerology, 1 + 4 + 2 does equal 7. So lucky
yes.
number 7.
Yeah, and that's why it's crazy
Yeah.
because so when I go to the gym every morning, I pick a locker and I usually get 33, and if 33 is not available, I'll go to like 144 but this morning I took 77. So, yeah, maybe there's a connection everything. This is why we need to connect with you, man. Hey, real quick, I want to get into Primal Pathway. I want to talk
Yeah.
about primal living. I want to talk about primal hacking because Chase, if you're watching this show right now, you're one of three people, okay? One is you already know what we're talking about, you're part of it. The second person is they think that we're all the liver king and they don't understand why we're doing this. Or third, they have absolutely no idea. So we're going to uncover a lot in this show. But first, I want to start off with like, what the hell is primal living? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what is that whole thing? Explain it to me like I'm five.
Well, I mean, that's a phenomenal question because, like, if I turned my camera, you'd see my neighbor's house just like, a few yards away from me. I live in the middle of suburbia. I'm not necessarily out here on a homestead, like, hunting with a bow and arrow, living like they did 5 generations ago. And to me, primal means getting back to like the roots of us at a heart and soul level,
Mm.
and doing that in the modern world, and living as simply as we can in the world that we exist in. So for me, that's like eating whole real food, even if it's bought from the grocery store. I didn't go out and kill and pick it myself, but bought it from the grocery store or from the local farm. Moving my body daily, and most importantly, being in touch with who I am as a person, as a man, being able to, the primal intake, like eating liver. That's cool. I have a bag of liver jerky in my freezer, but more so, primal fuel is cutting out the bullshit from your eyes and your ears,
Mm.
and being able to create your own story and reconnecting to yourself, because then everything else, the fitness, the lifestyle, the relationships, the wealth building becomes automatic because you're back to who you truly are.
Dude, what a brilliant explanation. And it resonates with me, dude, because, I couldn't explain it when I first felt it. But in 2019, my life felt so overwhelming. And after my plant medicine trip, I realized that none of it was real. Like, I can't explain it any other way than I just had this primal, like, calling to retreat to the mountains. And that was the first time I ever like really, to be honest with you, Chase, and I know you work with a lot of men and a lot of high level men. At the time, I even felt a little like a little bit of an imposter using the word primal because I wasn't really sure what it meant. Nobody in my and so I kind of what does that even mean to me, And the more and more I leaned into it, it's like what you just said. For me personally, it was just stripping away everything that didn't matter and really just returning to my primal nature of how I be. Like, how does a human being be? What do we do throughout the day? And it really just changed my life. And so I kind of want to ask you though, I want to kind of delve into this other side real quick. Has Chase always been like this? Like, have you always been the primal dude, or like, did you experience something or go through something? Like, how did we arrive here first and foremost?
It's been a bit of a slow burn with a couple of big revelations along the way. Like my dad had a weight bench in his bedroom when I was 4 years old. So like fitness has just been a thing, on the same level. Like my dad's a phenomenal human being. He came a long way from the previous generation, and generationally speaking, somebody born in 1960 doesn't have the emotional intelligence to step outside of a lot of stories to really heal the stuff that he dealt with. And I mean, he's a gangster. He did it to the best of his ability, and he ended up getting hired at United with no college degree or military experience and retired from United Airlines. Like very cool. And let's be real, our parents didn't have the tools we have now.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I came up like, hard head, lots of anger. Fitness was my outlet. In high school, I was the kid with the leather jacket and IROC Z Camaro, and I smelled like weed showing up to school every day. So like there was that. And then
there was that.
And then I graduated high school and I had zero direction, partially because 9/11 happened when I was 13. So I was lined up to be a third generation United pilot. Thing about that is you start learning to fly if you're doing it like slow burn when you're 14, you start learning to fly gliders. Well, when 9/11 happens when you're 13 and your dad doesn't work for 6 months, and then the cash isn't there when the contracts get restructured for you to learn how to fly on your 14th birthday, you start going, what am I going to do?
Right.
So I stuck around town for 4 years. I ended up going in the military. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, but they kind of sort of pulled the rug out from under my feet. And I said, whatever. I just spent 4 years as a engineman, worked in the engine rooms. And that's where I really started clicking that a lot of people were using the Navy and the military in general as a babysitting service for fully grown men, like guys that just didn't want to take. And the whole self-responsibility thing was what first kicked me down this rabbit hole, full like radical responsibility and ownership. And I read Atlas Shrugged at age 22.
Wow.
And after reading that, after seeing what I saw in the Navy and getting out to open my gym, once I started taking ownership of my life, then it was like, well, wait, if I'm going to take ownership over my life, that means ownership over me. And if I'm taking ownership over me, that means really authentically getting under the hood and seeing what's making me tick.
So I definitely want to get into that. I want to get into that later here in the show. I want to rewind back to something you said, and it might trigger some people, but I am a firm belief the same thing. I've never heard it explained the way that you just said it, but you're like, understanding that a lot of the people that maybe are joining the military are using it as an adult babysitting service. Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the way that I'm hearing that, or the way that it resonates with me is, and I know we've had this conversation privately off air and then maybe on your podcast as well, but we were talking about how in my hometown and, from Illinois, this little tiny mill town, it's like either you joined the service or you worked at the mill. I mean, I guess you could go to college too, right? And some of the kids did, but by and large, those are the two options that most men in my community grew up with. And my thing was like, as I was starting to grow and mature as a young man and taking personal development and self-mastery very serious, and then becoming a business owner in my late 20s, I started and being in San Diego, right? Like being in San Diego, where the Navy and the military, like the Marine Corps is at. I started noticing like a lot of the military people were not really that great of people. And it's like, I was like, I understand like, everything you've been through and the sacrifice, but this thing where I need to stand up and just salute you because you decided to join the military, like you're not even using it to become who you really want to be. And so I don't want to necessarily talk about the military, although we can talk through that scope, but I know that you work with high level men. And so I want to ask you some professional questions, like starting right there, like what is it that keeps men stuck in those situations? And you could say the same thing with a job, working here, working there, being in the military. Like, why do men in this society, with every opportunity available to them, why do they end up like parking it in neutral somewhere in their 20s and then just never get going again? Like, why is that a thing? What keeps them stuck there?
Because it's a story. They've been told that a certain thing is going to get them fulfillment and satisfaction. And once they get there, they go, well, I was told that this was going to get me what I want to feel. So like sooner or later it must come, right? Like I don't feel it yet, but sooner or later it's going to come along. Maybe I just need more of this thing because like this much of this job hasn't worked, but maybe that next promotion, maybe that next high paying job in the different company over within the same industry. And been fed a narrative that we go to school, we get the degree, we get the house, we get the wife, we get the family. And I am all for, like, a man building a family, like as a guy with a 14-month-old daughter, super fulfilling. And building yourself first, or building yourself alongside that. A lot of guys lose themselves to win the rat race, and they get so far along in that. Now they're at a point where their divorce is going to cost them multiple seven figures, and what now they actually have to look within. And that's scary, man, because, if we're going primal eons ago, change could mean that we died. If we change one thing, like
Right.
that was a defense mechanism. So guess what, though? It's safe to change things these days. And the sooner people accept that, the sooner they can move out of their stuck circumstances.
Yeah. No, 100%, man. I totally agree. It's like, and you said it too. It's like you get out of the Navy and the first thing you realize is really taking self-ownership, like accountability for the things that are happening in your life. And I would say that was very much the exact same thing for me too. As a man, was like, not that I made everything perfect, but that was the beginning of the self-development journey, right? Was like, oh, everything is my fault. And what I find, Chase, most men, is most people in general, but is that they'll go one of two ways when they realize that's all on them, right? Either they'll feel super empowered, like, so I'm the only, like I was,
Yeah.
I'm like, so it's just me. I'm the only one. So all I have to do is just get me out of the way. I'm like, shit, that's easy. So to me, I've always been like, if I suck, tell me I suck, so I know, so I can fix it. Or you go the other way, which is you're so entrenched in that victim mindset that, you just wallow in it. And I want to ask you specifically right there, because I know that you've seen plenty of this, whether you've worked with them or not. Men these days, I find, by and large, the overwhelming majority of men of your everyday America, they get in this victim mindset where they're so, like, they defend their excuses. Like, it's always woe is me, my wife this, my kids that, my job. It's deflect. So how do we?
I'm so glad you brought up the victim mindset, or the victim mentality. I have a definition for this.
Hit me with it.
The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where an individual tends to define themselves as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. And it depends on a habitual thought process and attributions. It's acquired. We pick it up along the way, and we feed it. It depends on us feeding it with thoughts and attributions. Like,
so give me an example. Like, what is a man doing, like, without even realizing that? Well, how is he feeding that?
A simple one could be that someone cut him off in traffic, so now he's angry. So now the rest of his day has to suffer. So now his kids get a shitty version of him.
Right.
Oh, my boss is such a dick, I can't stand working there. Well, actually, like, your boss may have said something, but if you took offense to it, that was your choice to take it.
Yeah.
You took it. You picked it up and ran with it. And at the end of the day, I mean, you've seen some of this magic. It comes down to the words we use. And
dude, 100%.
It's the words we use. Abracadabra comes from Aramaic for "with my word I create," or "with my words I influence." And the language that a lot of guys are using it's externalized, it's vague, and it's negative. It puts the onus on other people. It's all these maybes, kinda, shoulda, like, and it's weak at the end of the day.
For the listeners, I was talking about this on Chase's podcast, but I had a phone call. We were just chopping it up to, just to get to meet each other. And I was using some language, and he's like, hey, why don't we write this down? And we started working through this problem. So I'm telling you guys, the way that you are able to rearrange words and just change a few things out, it creates a completely different spell, right? And so Chase was excellent at it. So one of the many things that I'm sure that you do, but it was an absolute game changer for me. And probably why we're back recording this podcast this time. Like, I've been in this, like, holding pattern myself, this slump of, like, where's Marshall going? Like, what is this next phase of his life? Like, what is he really passionate about doing? How does he want to spend his days as he matures into a father and a partner? And I just couldn't figure it out. Like, I don't know what it was, and I've done all this shit for a living. And I had a call with Chase, I think at the time of recording this, maybe like 2 weeks ago or something, 10 days ago, something like this. And he helped me fall back in love with what I was originally in love with in the first place, with Top Paid Speaker, which, if you guys have been following my brand for any length of time, you know that I've been at this back and forth, wishy-washy, one leg in, one leg out, weak ass fucking bullshit with my purpose and mission for the last 3 years. And I mean, quite frankly, it's embarrassing to look at, and I've known this right about me. But that's the importance, Chase, of connecting with people who can help you get to where you want to go. Which makes me think, it's like I saw this video on TikTok the other day. Maybe I saw it on Instagram. Yeah, maybe. Anyways, some masculine revival page I follow, and it was this girl that was like, "Who do you call when you're at your lowest point?" And then it went to a bunch of like clips of men, and all of them are like, "Nobody, absolutely fucking nobody. I'm a man. Nobody cares." So I want to talk a little bit about that, right? Like, have you experienced that in your life? And if so, were you able to change? Is it possible to change it? Because like right now in America, it does feel like everybody wants to talk about men's mental health, but nobody actually gives a shit about it. So where do we as men, how are we supposed to navigate through that? I'm listening to what you're saying. I know I got to make the change. I hear about the words and all things, but dude, like there's nobody for me. And then, yeah.
I can still literally feel the gym mats under me, because it was probably about 4 months into starting my gym, 3 months after my wife and I started dating, and I shut down the lights, dude. I would be there from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. I would get in my truck, and my old iPhone old 2014. So yeah, old by now.
Yeah.
I would get in, and it would say 8 minutes to home when I would leave, or 8 minutes to work when I would leave at night, because it thought I worked at home and lived at work, because I was only home for about 8 hours total. Yeah. So I was running thin. All that to put context to the point that this one night it was wearing on me, man. I'd shut the lights down. I laid down in the middle of the floor and I started bawling. I'm like, what am I doing? I've got less than $1,000 in the month in the gym's bank account at the end of each month. I left all my friends in the Navy, and then you know who I call? I call my girlfriend, who's now my wife. She stuck with me through this. Like, what am I doing? I don't like. How was this girl that I just started dating supposed to take this? Yeah. Right? Apparently, she took it well and supported me, because we have a child together now. But so yes, all that to say, I've been there at this point where I didn't know what the heck I was doing or why I was doing it. For some reason, I was just doing it, and there's the scary stat out there that men above 40 have on average, less than one friend they can talk to about something serious. And if we extrapolate that even further, most men, when they think about talking about something serious, they still stay like surface level. Now they won't actually get into it. And I'll even go as far to say that some,
yeah, I mean, that's still me. Like I'm trying to,
Yeah. I mean, it's always a work in progress. I've flipped hurt people to healed people heal people, and it's actually healing people heal people, because if you ever consider yourself healed, you've stopped the journey and you're sliding back towards hurt.
Yeah. Well, so let's dive into that, because it's interesting. Like, let's just use me for an example. I'm always honest with my audience. Like I am at that place. Like I'll be 40 next year, and I have like one friend I guess I could call, right? I mean, he's like my best friend I could call, and I know I have more people than that. Like I know I do. So I wonder why men like me do that. Like, I wonder why we isolate like that, and that's the thing is a lot of I host, so to the viewers who don't know, I host an annual men's retreat. I've hosted an annual men's retreat every year since 2017. And I didn't really know the personality archetype at the time, Chase, but if I had to label it according to this hierarchy, I guess I would probably be like a Sigma male. So for the viewers or listeners who don't know, it's like you have the alpha male, who is all the things that an alpha male is, not the toxic shit that people talk about, the bro shit, like the alpha of the hierarchy, the leader that wants to be in the spotlight. But then you have a Sigma who's, I mean, basically an alpha, except that dude wants nothing. He doesn't want to be part of the limelight. He doesn't really want to lead. He likes being by himself, but he can if he needs to. Okay, so for context, so Chase, if I'm like the Sigma male type, then why do men like me? Is it obviously it's a learned pattern, a conditioned pattern, right? Like I know I have friends to call, but I don't call them. So why do men do that?
Are you the person that most of those friends would call?
Yes.
Yeah. So then it's hard for us to turn it around. I've been there, dude. I'd like when my brother died, I was the person, I held it together in the critical care unit. Like I let myself cry. Like if somebody was sobbing, I went over there and I gave them a hug. And for anybody listening, if somebody's going through a hard time, give them a hug and just start breathing low and slow. It's the law of entrainment. It's like grandfather clocks in a room. The pendulums start swinging together. And if you go there, you can control your pendulum and you breathe low and slow. You'll see someone who's sobbing just go from a sob to a kind of a little cry. And then all of a sudden, before they even realize it, they go, and they take a big deep breath with you. You know, and all that to say, like I was that rock for all my family. You know what I did? I hit up my boy Dave Robinson, gangster ass story work coach like myself. And he actually told me, he's like, dude, session's on me when you're ready. And I took like I had 8 different stories titled out from that day. And I got in there and I worked them. And I did the work. So it's having one person who's on our level or who that we see as someone who we can talk to. Because
100%.
when we're the leader, it can be difficult to accept that other people can help us.
Bro, you nailed that. See, this is working with pros. I was trying to set him up for a perfect answer and he knocks it out of the park. But that essentially is like, that's been my experience too, right? To be honest with you, I also don't feel like I always need support. And I don't mean that like, oh, I'm like, I'm not that kind of dude, right? Like I know that life is uncomfortable. I know that living at the edge and being the tip of the spear is always going to be extra stress, right? But I bring that on myself. Like guys like us, like we just can't, like that's just who we are intrinsically. It's like, it's in my DNA. But again, that's why I also started hosting men's retreats, right? Like that's why I did a long time ago and people laughed, but I'm like, dude, you have to understand that, you know, it's a very certain type of male that I can connect with. That's it. Because if they're not at the same worldviews, one, it's not going to work. But also it's like we push ourselves in ways that most people just are never going to do it, which is fine. But I can't listen to you or understand you or relate to you or listen to you bitch about anything or complain or ask for my support when you're not even doing and taking care of the things in your life that you have the control over. And so I say all that to say to all the other men that are listening, like, Chase, everybody thinks it's like some, I don't think, but like, it's not some big secret. You know, is there a problem with men's mental health in this country? Yes. Are there many resources or people that actually give a shit about men's mental health? No. However, if you are able to take responsibility for your life and accountability and ownership of that shit, there are resources out there for every man to be able to change his life. And so it's like, I don't know, dude, I guess I'm just feeling passionate, fired up right now.
You're 100% right. You talk about men's retreats. Of course, like I barely ever wear this shirt when I'm doing podcasts. And for some reason I felt like wearing it today. This is, see if I can get this logo in here. You know, heal one, heal all. This is a shirt from our Colorado retreat that we ran in July. And there's something to be said for those of us leaders that just getting in a container and working that stuff, just getting in, creating that container, it can be healing for us. Like the story work that I do, it's regenerative. And I was asked on a podcast back in October when I was at a summit for the coaching community for that story work. You know, I was asked, why do you coach? Or what's your favorite thing about coaching? I said, if we are all the universe experiences itself through different pinholes of awareness, well, then every person I get to coach, I get a view through that pinhole. And that's regenerative, man. That's therapeutic for me.
100%.
Yeah.
I love that, dude. And it's like, and that's the thing though, you know, it's, you have to come to a point where you're willing to invest time, money, and energy into becoming the man you want to be. You know, I understand that not everybody has the money to get started right away. Guess what? When I started out, I was broker than broke. I had less than no money. And what it looked like for me, and Jason, you know, let me know about what it looked like for you, but what it looked like for me was just nonstop learning from YouTube videos, buying books. And then it was like, make a little bit more. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to buy this course. And then I'm taking this and the skills get a little bit better. Now I could hire my first coach. And then it was like, here's my first mastermind. And then it was like, I'm going to this massive event. And it was like, I'm going to do all this myself. And so like, what was it like for you? Like, how did you get started in this whole journey?
So I was a certified personal trainer in 2008 before I committed to going into the military. I was an assistant command fitness leader in the military. I got out and I went to open my gym, and I all the money I'd saved up from tax-free deployments. I wasn't out there drinking on deployment. I stacked cash, dude. So that bought the equipment for my gym. But then we were broke every month. So like I was just doing it on my own. Like that was the point of like, man, we're just gonna figure this out. And then when I hired my first coach there, you know, which surprise, surprise, when I hired my first business coach, it was half personal development too. Funny things, usually personal problems show up as business problems. And I mean, through the years, like for my gym specific business, I spent well over six figures on coaching and mentoring. And for my online business, I've spent 50, 60K on coaching and mentoring. You know, and there's always another edge to be found. Like
100%.
I'll hire a coach even if I feel like I know most of what they know, just because if I hear it in another different way, or if it's somebody to help me integrate it, like, cool. Guess what? The investment paid off.
100%. Dude, I mean, I was literally just talking about this on my Instagram story today at the time we're recording this podcast. So I have a German Shepherd that hangs out with me during the day, and she moves sometimes, and I swear this cabin's haunted, and then she gets up and she'll do what she's doing right now, and I'm like, yeah, this cabin's haunted. Anyways, back to the regular scheduled show here. What were we talking about?
Instagram story.
Instagram story. And so I was saying that I don't know, I lost it. Niobe took it from me.
We were talking about hiring coaches and the return on investment. Yeah.
Perfect. Sorry. Yeah. So, like, for example, today I had this guy. He makes way more money than me. He's making like 120 grand a month. But he wanted me to review one of his videos. He has a much more massive YouTube following than me. He puts up 2 a week, and he pays $2,500 for an hour for me to watch a video and then have a phone call with me. Gets that done at the end of the video and is like, dude, this was so much value. Like, this is so tremendous for me. I can't even, you know what I'm saying? And me, vice versa, the same thing. I have paid coaches just for one phone call for a year program, like 10 grand. Here you go to be part of your mastermind. I've been on 2 calls, but I got everything I needed. And it's like, I know that men and people in general can be so scarcity with their resources, whether it's money, their time, their energy, but how we do one thing is how we do everything. And it's like, I'm telling you, to all the men out there listening, women too, and I'm sure Chase, you would agree. It's like, if you get to a point where you can bet on yourself, that's what it really came down to. Is like, I was like, I am not going to lose. I am betting on myself no matter what. And I just kept going all in. And I saw this post from Alex Hormozy last night. And I've said it in a different way, but he's basically like, when you start a business, you got 2 options: quit or outlast failure, right? And that's really what it comes down to.
There's 2 secrets to success in any endeavor in life. You start and you keep going.
Oh yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And talking about coaching and men and scarcity, a lot of guys feel like, well, I got to do the masculine thing and build it on my own. And it's like, okay, cool. Let's look at, if we're looking at masculine archetypes and we look at the king, what did every king had? He had a good board of advisors, basically, right? Good cabinet, if you will. So are you going to be a king and try and go it alone? Like, do you think that will get you your kingdom? Or will you have a guide? Will you have a Merlin, a wizard to help you along? Me, that sounds a lot more fun.
Oh yeah. No, it's so true too. And it's like, that's the one thing is, my fiance is 5 years older than me. And so she's like an actual woman, and she has turned up to a 10 in every level of feminism. Like, she's all the way up. So sometimes mom will be saying something, and the boys will be like, what's going on with mom? I'm just like, listen, boys, all women are like your mom. It's just that mom is like elevated in every area, which we always tease her. But back to what I'm saying is, like, when I started dating Kirsty, I had to start showing up as a different type of man. I mean, this is a 40-some-year-old woman, business owner for most of her life, so completely outgoing, hosting events, 4 kids, been in and out, has already been married and divorced, like the whole thing, And so when I started to show up with her, it's funny because before that, yeah, I'm running around on social media. I'm a king. I'm all the shit, And then you show up with a woman like that who's had to carry the entire load herself. And she's like, motherfucker, you are not a king. And all of a sudden it was this realization of like, damn, like, yeah, it's easy to say all these things on social media, but what does it actually mean to be the king? And you're just alluding to it right there. So can you go a little bit deeper? Like, for all these men out there, like, what does it actually truly, Chase, mean in your book, if you were going to break it down, like, to be a king in today's modern society as a man?
Well, I'll tell you this. There's a fair amount of coaches in the woo-woo, super soft space who are like, oh, I'm her king and she's my queen. No, you guys just have 0 life commitments, and you play a circle jerk game of having your friends pay for your program and you pay for their programs.
Yes.
Like, great job creating a living. What happens if everybody all of a sudden just can't pay for each other's programs, though? You're going to have to go provide real value to people.
Right.
So that's one of my biggest things with this whole king thing. Like, let's actually get out there and create something worthwhile.
Right.
That being said, I've had numerous clients who are like, Yeah, well, my wife, I just feel like my wife isn't like that feminine, like, and I've heard the story before of like, well, then she cheated on me. And okay, cool. Why'd she cheat? Well, she said because she felt uh, loved, and she felt seen, and she felt like a princess. Is one of her. Like, so you're telling me your wife doesn't seem feminine to you, but when she cheated, she felt like a princess. Do you think maybe that's because when she cheated, there was a more masculine frame to help her step into her femininity? And that's the goal of it here, is a strong masculine. Like, for the feminine to come forth full bore, there better damn well be a strong, confident masculine. And a lot of the, oh yeah, he's my queen, oh she's my queen, like that. For I got a lot of buddies in Austin, Texas, and that like stereotypical Austin, Texas vibe.
Yeah.
It's not it. They're having fun, but and they come across as kids.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
No, I think like really when you get to a point, and I'm definitely not my fully evolved masculine self yet. Like I am like, I would say, in the throes of still like really embodying this, And I believe you can only do that in relation, which is why I'm also kind of like these single men's coaches. Like, I'm not saying it's not like possible. It's tough because it's like, how are you supposed to see your truest reflection when you're not in relation with other people?
The single 20 somethings that are trying to coach dads on how to run their businesses and get fit are like, dude, like, yeah, you get it all, but like at the same time, you don't get it.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I built Top Paid Speaker, So I'd have these dads that would invest in me, and they weren't hitting the marks.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be like, well, how are you not fucking hitting these marks? Well, I'm like, it's literally like an hour of your day. But now as a dad,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, and so it's funny because I'm like, how naive of me. Like, oh my God, it's almost embarrassing to think about how disconnected I was from what it means to be that parent, right? And so it's like, I want to go back to this whole thing about masculine frame, because I have a lot of listeners of my show that are business owners, entrepreneurs. They might be a little bit younger, and they maybe have heard some things online about masculine and feminine polarity. But can you just kind of briefly break down, like, what does that mean, Chase? Like, okay, like masculine frame, like she cheated on me. She is always bossy. She is always like this masculine role, but they are failing to connect it to how it's related to them. So can you break that down? Like, what does a true masculine frame look like, and how does it respond to the woman?
Awesome question, because some guys like, and as I say some of this, I'm going to ride both sides of it, because a masculine frame makes the feminine feel secure and confident and safe. When I asked my wife on a podcast, when I had her on my show, I said, what's true femininity mean to you? She's like, she kind of took a breath and she's like, safety, to slow down. And to me, the masculine provides that safety, to truly allow the feminine to express itself, to be truly in flow. Like, hey, I'm all about flow. I got a book coming out about the flow of the universe, and that's that little dot of the yin that's in the masculine yang, if we're looking at a yin and yang symbol. A good book to really break open the masculine for anybody that wants to read it: King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. It's a really digestible read, and when you break open the 4 masculine archetypes, like, there are many ways that you can go shadow or immature masculine. And at the end of the day, if you develop a deep appreciation for life, if you develop a drive to create and to move forward in business and be a formidable man, and still be able to shelve that to be a present, loving husband, at the same time, to be able to create a kingdom, to be able to create something that is truly yours. And when you get the, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, when you get the warrior, the magician, and the lover in line, the king will come forward full force.
The king appears. You guys should all write that down and go get that book, whether it's on Audible or you guys I'm like, literally, that's like one of the books. I'm like, every man needs to read this book. At least they have to understand. Carl Jung, is that he came up with
it's written by 2 Jungian analysts.
Okay, that's right.
They're Jungian archetypes and the analyst. Because, dude, if you ever read any Carl Jung's like direct work, it's just like all stream of consciousness. It is dense, dude.
Yeah, it is dense. That book is great. So like, I love it because my fiance is always, Kirsty's always like, well, she's the first one that brought this to my attention, and the things that I lack in the relationship, to be honest with you, up until this point. And it's like, she's like, in chess, the queen makes moves the king can't. And I'm like, damn, yeah, that's true. You know what I mean? So like having a powerful queen next to your side, but she has to be empowered and given that space, and that space has to be held for her to be that. And I think that in my relationship, that's what I have struggled with the most, is the consistency to hold that frame. What I have a tendency to do is as I heal through my stuff, is be reactive when I shouldn't. I'll be like steadfast for like 85% of the time. And then there'll be that time when finally like I feel like I've been beat on, and I'll snap. And then we go back into this thing. And so, we go to therapy and we do all the things. And our relationship is amazing, but we'd like to be realistic about the things that we're actually experiencing as we're going through and trying to heal all these things. And so what is like, do you see that in the coaching with your men, like these business leaders who they keep giving into a reactive state? Like, what is the story with that?
I mean, that's part of the safety, right? I'm so glad you got specific on that ask there. That's the safety of the masculine frame, is to be able to put true space between your reaction and your response, be able to see your thoughts and your emotions as they arise and before they get out of your mouth and get you in trouble.
Yeah.
And part of that space and creating that safety there is understanding yourself. And understanding yourself is really all you need. Understanding yourself and then understanding others. I like to say, if you seek to be understood, confusion will abound. When you seek to understand, clarity and peace will be yours for the taking.
Interesting. So you're saying the best way to cultivate that space is to really lean into the fact that, like, let me truly try to understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
100%. Instead of me trying to explain to you why I am feeling this way.
Yeah. Understand them first. And one of the best ways to do that, to listen, is breath. This is a key I give all my clients. If you can try and take the longest nasal exhale possible while someone's talking, good luck interrupting them. Like, you're going to listen and you're going to process, and then you're going to be able to respond. Because, Marshall, the difference between a conversation and an argument? Do you know what it is?
No.
It's not the tone of voice. It's not an anger level. It's whether the person who is listening has already decided what they were going to say before the person who's talking is done talking.
Interesting. Okay, well, let me ask you about that, because one of the things with Kirsty and I is Kirsty is a kind of like a yeller, but to her, she's not yelling, and she's trying to explain that it's not that she's angry. To me, we're not how I grew up. Being yelled at is like the trigger, right? Like, I'm in trouble, I'm not worthy, and then all the reactions that come from that. So is that what you're referring to when you say what you just said to us? Is that, hey, like, it's not the tonality or the pacing necessarily. It's, we say that again. It's the what?
It's whether you have decided what you're going to say before the person who's talking is done talking.
So that would be like me formulating my case before this person's even done talking.
Yeah. If you chew on this one word she said here, and then there's 3 more sentences, but you've already created your response before she's finished what she's saying.
That I do that. Sometimes, most of the times when we're in an argument. So that's great clarity for me. I mean,
it's really easy to do, and I've also put up a post, and it was a little crass to get people's attention, but it's your triggers are your responsibility, nobody else's.
100%.
So it's like, hey, like, it would be cool if as a partner, like they see that and they come around to respect that. And at the same time, that's something for us to know and honor within ourselves. Like, okay, cool. I can breathe through that. I can come back to center, and I can see that maybe that reaction for my partner is created by a trigger of theirs too. And we can get in this circle of bitching about our triggers, or we could try and get to the bottom of it.
Right. Which starts with the man, I believe. I believe it still all goes back to the masculine frame. Like, you have to create structure first.
Yep.
I mean, we can go around and around and around. And that's the one thing I keep finding it, like, with the men I talk to. It's like, I feel like the man has to go first, right? And then the woman has to keep her boundaries, because, and I find like that's the things that the men are not willing to ever go first, and the women keep giving into their boundaries to try to get the man to do the thing. And it's like, if both people could just hold their frame, these things would be better. So anyways, that's interesting. I appreciate you kind of diving into that with me. That's just the things that we work through still. It's like we both have our triggers, and I am getting so much better at it, but that's good information. Like, one with the nasal breathing and being able to listen, but you are right. Like, stopping and listening, not fixing on a word, but holding and creating that space and not taking it personally. I think I need to read the 4 agreements again. Maybe that's for medicine.
Yeah. 100%.
Not taking things so personal. So I love having these conversations with you. To all the listeners, it's like, this is what Chase does. Like, yes, he owns a gym. Yes, he's got this. He's doing acquisitions now like a fucking baller. So like he's got all these things going on, and you don't even have to coach. And that's the thing that I want people to realize about having this conversation with you. It's like, yo, this dude could unplug from the internet and still do his whole entire life and still make great money and still help a ton of people. However, there's this calling inside of you to be able to spend your time away from your family, away from your businesses, the freedom or the free time you would have for yourself, and you pour it back into people. And you've literally built this business helping men turn their authenticity into a superpower, which kind of sounds woo-woo in and of itself, but knowing you and how you break everything down, it's not at all. So just explain to me a little bit about how you arrived at this process. It's not fitness. I mean, it's definitely fitness based, but it's so much more than that. So tell me a little bit about how is it that you help men with the Primal pathway?
Yeah. So
Primal man pathway.
So yeah, fitness based, sure. And fitness is just the gateway drug to personal development. Right. So many of my clients come to me and they already have a base level of fitness. I actually, ironically enough, after my little tirade about just enrolling a bunch of coaches, I often get, coaches who are early on their journey who sign up with me, which then they sign up with me, they go through the work, and then they go and they build an online brand, which now I'm helping some of them build their brand, because guess what? I know how to do that too. But talking about authenticity as a superpower, that applies to whether you want to build a brand or not, because it clearing the noise. And when you clear the noise and you reestablish yourself, like, dude, I was asked early on in my days of being a guest on a podcast, I was asked, what's the specific hell that you solve? And I was told, when you look at a fully grown man and you ask him, do you know who you are, like who you truly are on a soul level? And he glasses over, gets a little misty eyed and goes, no. Because so many men have never asked themselves that question. And it's a shame, dude, because if they've never asked themselves that question, then there's no way they can be doing the stuff that actually lights them up.
100%.
So when you ask yourself who you truly are, then it also creates the impetus for you to go in and dissect and reconstruct the stories that have created somebody who isn't you. And when we go in and we look at those stories and we heal those stories and we feel the feelings all the way through from those stories and realize that we have the pen and we can create whatever story we want, well, then that's a superpower, because we realize that leading from, and this sounds woo and high, Stanford Medical has measured that the heart has a field that's measurable up at least 3 feet away from it. So when you look at that, and it measures differently depending on where you are in your mood and how you're acting, and authenticity measures the highest. So when you're in your authentic self, you can step into your fully masculine frame. You can create the world you truly want. And what you get, like when you say it's fitness based and it's not, like, yeah, you get to feel how most people think fit people feel, how most people think the biceps feel, how most people think the abs feel, how most people think that, like, yeah, sure, like you might get fit and think that it's going to be, oh, I can rip my shirt off at the beach and be confident. But the amount of fit people with massive body dysmorphia, thank you, dysmorphia is just crazy. So you'll actually be confident even if you don't get the six pack, because you know who the hell you are.
Yeah, and I think that's one. I mean, that I can tell just by having conversations with you that is what you specialize in. But your content online is next level too. And so for anybody that's watching this, you guys want to go follow Chase on Instagram. It's just at Chase Tolleson.
At Coach_Chase_Tolleson. Yep.
That's right. Yeah. And so that's part of the things that I love. And I want to unpack just a few of those things real quick that you're talking about. First off, totally about I just want to say this to everybody that's listening. Like, it's a real thing. Your thoughts are electric and your emotions are magnetic. So the body literally produces an electromagnetic field. And like Chase said, there's medical instruments that can measure it up. I read up to 10 feet, although scientists believe that it's infinite. Yeah. So the same reason that a gazelle walking across the safari can feel that it probably shouldn't walk up to the lion laying underneath the tree. It's the vibes and the frequencies that we feel are a real thing.
Oh, and I've always had something about this, right? Like when I was a kid and we would be ding dong ditching, anytime I said, let's not do this house, we'd get the angry dad coming out trying to yell at us or run after us.
Yeah.
Like, and I know and I want to lay that out there for the listeners. You've thought of somebody and all of a sudden they texted you.
Yes.
Like, it's real.
It's a real thing. And so it's like, and there's so many books and other things that we could dive into, right? About,
Mhm.
the law of one and everything's connected. But back to what you're saying, then, okay, cool. Like, there's this electromagnetic field that you can become. It works better physically, which is why I believe in events. So this is not something I've ever really talked about on the podcast, but the reason I got into events is when I learned this, I started doing virtual events, which weren't called virtual events back then, in 2016, 17, 2018. But in 2016, I started to realize that the more I was at these in-person events, Chase, the more energy I felt. And that's when I really started to dive into understanding this, which is why I moved into live events. But back to what we're saying about what Chase is doing here, that's why it's such a game changer to have a network, to have a coach, to have a mentor, right? Virtually, if at the very least, at least virtually, right? Because these vibes, this high frequency, it's a state. It's nothing more than a state. If you look at what's the name? Hawkins scale.
Yeah.
The Hawkins scale shows you that your vibrations vibrate at a frequency, with enlightenment being the highest. And I think what
And they've discovered recently that authenticity vibrates higher than
higher than
any of
that.
that. Yeah.
There you
That
go.
and I've got a little bit of a bone to pick with that though, because if we reach authenticity, and if enlightenment is just, at its simplest form, being able to see reality as it actually is, then authenticity, clearing all of our junk and being able to see us as we actually are, then to me, that's just the next level of enlightenment.
Dude, 100%. I
Yeah.
love that. And so it's like, okay, well, let's talk about that for a second, because as it applies to Hawkins scale and everything we just talked about together, and the importance of being, the way I say it, because I'm a speaker, right? Being in the right rooms, the right people who have the right
Hmm.
information. And that's really that is my secret to life. I'm like, I tell people all the time, you've got to be in the right rooms with the right people who have the right information, because it's not enough just to have one of those things. It has to be all of those things. And so Chase, as a man who's trying to figure their shit out, making a lot of money seems easy for some men. Having a great body seems easy for some men. Having it all for a lot of men seems almost impossible, even though they try as hard as they can every single day. They're consistently doing the things that they think are going to work, but it's not happening. And so what I'm suggesting to these men is that if you get in the right circles and you get in the right frequency, you can, what wealthy and successful people do, collapse time, and you can arrive at the reality that you want to experience sooner. And what you're saying, Chase, is that on a scale that's measurable, it
Yep.
may be woo, but it shows that authenticity is literally the highest vibrating frequency that you have. Now, Chase, I know that you're not saying that the meaning to life is to be in that state all of the time. So if I'm a man, should I expect times when I have terrible emotions or when I'm angry? Like, is that a normal part of life, or am I supposed to be flying high all the time?
I mean, so I had a past life as we'll go woo for a second. Apparently, I was told I had a past life as a monk, like an ageless monk who would levitate and show up as a astral
Dope.
travel and show up as a golden ball to people. So like, I've been
That's
told, I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back here. I've been told for at least a decade here, like, well, not everybody can just implement something or be something as easy as you, Chase. Like, apparently, I can make up my mind and just do something easy, and I
interesting.
still have days where like I'll be like chewing on something and my wife will be like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "I'm good. I got low sleep last night. There's mental effects of that, and I'm just chewing on something. Like, I promise I'm good." And there will be days where I still go there, dude. I'll sign up like 2 clients in a week, 1 client the next week, and then I'll have a week where it's like looking slow, and I'll start just beating myself up. And it takes like taking that step back, taking that breath, and that's the key here. Is we all have that victim mentality that lives within us. I still have it.
Yeah.
The key is having that 1,000,000-watt flashlight where you can shine on it and go, hey, that monster in the closet is just a pile of clothes and everything's actually okay. That's the key. And you talk about being in the right rooms. We got to tell them about the grandfather clocks, Marshall.
Bro, tell them about the grandfather clocks. I love this. I just learned
Yeah.
about this from Chase. Hit him with it.
So a physicist in the 1600s was lying up sick in bed, and he had been tinkering with his timepieces, his grandfather clocks, and he realized that the two at the foot of his bed in his room, regardless of where he put them back together, would fall in sync. Their pendulums would swing in unison. And he took this to the Royal Ministry of Science, or whatever it was called in the 17th century in the UK, and he was laughed out of the room. In recent decades, it's been proven that those grandfather clocks were communicating through tiny vibrations in their wooden housings across the room. The same underlying mechanism is the reason that faucets will sync up. It's the reason for female cycles sync in. It's the reason for the tides and the moon. Now, here's the fun part. If you put a bunch of grandfather clocks in a room and one's taller than the rest, they all fall in sync with the tallest grandfather clock in the room because it has the strongest, the biggest vibrations. And what I like to tack onto this is the 3 degrees of influence, that your habits, your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs are contagious to your friends. So if you're the biggest grandfather clock 3 degrees out, you can have 3 degrees of great ripples and be resistant. You can filter what ripples you take back in.
Damn.
Yeah.
I love that analogy. So if anybody that's ever been to my any of my events or worked with me, I don't talk about that analogy, but I make a similar kind of analogy. And I'm like, okay, if you have 2 rocks that weigh the exact same amount, and I drop one just a little bit before the other, the one that hits the water first is going to create a ripple effect. And by the time that ripple hits the smaller ripple, the bigger one is always over going to take it. Like that's just how energy works. The bigger, badder vibration is always going to trump the littler one. And I use that to reference basically what you're saying when I'm like, dude, when I was dealing drugs and being violent and in and out of jail, I was hanging around fucking people who were dealing drugs and being violent and in and out of jail. When I wanted to be a happy couple, I started hanging around happy couples. When I wanted to learn how to make money online, I was hanging around people who were making money online. And so it's interesting because in the beginning, I still had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So like 2012, 13, 14, I was starting to launch my business, but I was also still like being a butthole on the weekends. You know what I'm saying? And so the ripples of the one always trumped the other because I was always either hungover or this or that or my moods. I mean, I can see it so clearly now. And so I just can't resonate to the people that listen to this enough. It's not saying to go sign up with Chase or come to my event or his event.
Do
I'm
both.
just saying like, yeah, do it all. Right. But literally, you guys, the tools and the resources are out there. You have this thing in your hand that's never that's never not in reach of you guys. Literally every single thing you need to know for absolutely free is available right here. If you're a point in your life where you have resources, then you do what wealthy people do and spend money to save time. Broke people spend time to save money. Not one is right or wrong, but definitely one is better than the other. So, Chase, this has been awesome, man. I like to keep these episodes right about 60 minutes, but I want to ask, man, like 2024, you got a 14-month, there's no year old there, 14-month-old baby. How long have you been married for?
We got married in 2017, so 6.5 years.
That's awesome. So, I mean, like you're rocking and rolling in life. You got your gym. What's 2024 look like for Chase? Like what is some goals that you're setting for yourself?
Well, yeah. And for ultra clarity, because I don't think I divulged this to you yet. I shut that gym down almost 2 years ago at the end of 2021.
Did you?
Yeah. Yep. I shut it down after my brother passed away, and I saw that I was not in family pictures or videos because I had to be up the next day to run a gym. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I just had a head coach quit. My general manager is not bought in. She keeps on scheduling people during her shifts so she can go do other things. We're done.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And it was dude, that the drive home after I announced that was the most freeing drive ever. And what 2024 has in store is the business acquisition is getting up and rolling. We brought on a partner we had 3 partners leave the ownership team. We have 1 partner that replaced them that has extensive knowledge in the industry that we are operating in. And we are full steam ahead with that. And also, like you said, I'm always going to be coaching. Like I've been told coaching is a gift. It's like I've had people, after I get done speaking at events, like, dude, this is obviously a gift of yours. And I'll be coaching, the personal development, the fitness, helping people unlock their authenticity. Here's the fun thing about unlocking your authenticity. So many of my guys get done with that and they're like, wait, I want to help other people because like I understand this and I want to give this to more. So now after getting through this imposter syndrome of like, I'm not a business coach. Oh wait, yes, I am. I'm coaching people on how to take their authenticity and turn it into their superpower so they can actually have actual real impact. That's the first thing here. And as a very close second, make some money doing it. So many people are selling it the other way around. Oh, hey, make a lot of money. And also you might have some impact. No, you'll still get burnt out because running a business online is still a business to run.
100%.
Yeah.
I think people, I think people, they don't understand that, right? Oh, must be nice, must be this and that. But I'm like, yeah, but bro, I'm still working. Like, and I like what I do. I love what I do. So yes, I'm working on stuff, but it doesn't feel like work to me. And I'm able to be present anytime I want, because all I have to do to plug is put my phone down and then have the discipline not to go back to it. But I do want to touch on that, because it's like the journey of 1,000 steps starts with one. Or how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. A lot of men are listening to this and they want to change their life, and they want to do different things, right? And I'm like, bro, it's one step at a time. Like, the first thing you need to do is take care of the things you can take care of, which is your mind and your body. Creating the daily habits that will allow you to be the person. It's like, not how am I going to get it, but who do I have to become to be able to have these things that I want in my life? And so it's like, that's what I've been telling people for years. I'm like, start with you. Once you master and get your own results, then you're qualified to help somebody else get the same results that you've created in your life.
That right there. There's a handful of gentlemen that I've talked to that like they got some pieces to pick up in their life. And like, man, I really like what you're doing. Maybe I'll just start doing that. I'm like, let's get your own stuff cleared up. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to show up for other. This isn't about like being credible. It's about being able to show up for other people. And
100%.
until you put your own stuff back together at least a little bit, it's going to be very hard to show up for anyone else.
Bro, I was, shut my business down for 2 years, came back in May 2022. And over the last year, that's been the biggest thing that came up for me, is that, like, I've even reworked some coaching contracts and invited people back and stuff, because I don't feel like I showed up the way that I was supposed to. And the only way to explain that to myself, that I was able to reconcile it and then become aware of it and fix it, to adjust it, was to say, like, realize, dude, I'm not showing up for my clients because I'm not showing up for myself. Like, holy shit, I'm not showing up for myself in any regard. Like, yes, I'm really good at a lot of things, but I'm not trying. Like, what are we doing? And so many men get caught in that loop. And so that's why I'm like, dude, I want to have you on the show. I got to have people connected to you. I want more people to know about what you're doing, because you're kicking ass. Like, I'm back in alignment doing what I wanted to be doing because of you. I'm like, oh yeah, like, I have this message and I can sell top paid speaker to provide for my family. I don't have to. I don't need to just shut the fuck up and do it. Like, so just real quick, we're going to end this episode. I'll let you go. But to the listeners, when I was talking with Chase, I'm going back and forth. I'm feeling disconnected from top paid speaker. And he was asking me these questions, and at the end of all the things I said I wanted to be doing, I said I should just shut the fuck up and sell top paid speaker and provide for my family. He goes, all right, stop right there. And he opens up this Word doc, shares the link with me, and he's typing on screen, I should just shut the fuck up and sell top paid speaker and provide for my family. And then he does this magic. He changes like 1 or 2 words, and it's like, I could just do blah, 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 or something like that. And I'm like, okay. And then he changes again. And the end thing that the sentence ended up become is, I can sell top paid speaker and provide for my family. And I was like, such a little tiny shift. And for somebody who literally people pay me thousands of dollars to shift them. I couldn't say enough about it. I'm still raving about it. It's only been like 10 or 12 days, dude, but I feel back on purpose. I feel like I'm qualified to start leading the speakers again. And I feel like I'm doing it in a place where I'm doing it for like the warrior class like me, because my association to speaking has always been like the nasty, and sorry, nothing but San Diego, but it's just the cesspool of like these wannabe-preneurs who all stay in their little circle jerk area where they all go to their events, each other's events. And it's just like, bro,
it's so incestuous in some of these circles,
it's
man.
gross, bro.
Yeah.
And I hated it. And then having a conversation with you, I was like, oh, God dang, it's because I'm talking to the wrong group of people. My group of people who want me are over here, and I'm still trying to justify why I should be over here, which is actually what I'm doing in my relationships too. And so this whole entire thing has been like a massive awakening. So anyways, awesome. Chase, dude, thank you so much for everything you've done for me just as a man, as a friend. Thank you for being here on the show. You guys, if you're not following Chase, go do that. In next year in 2024, he's opening up his men's circle again. So you can join the wait list literally right now. There's a few reasons you want to get on that wait list. The first reason you want to get in that wait list is because you want to definitely be part of that program. You're going to love what it does for your life, for your business, for your family. The second reason you're going to want to get on that wait list is because eventually he's going to release information about his next retreat. And we already talked about being in the right rooms, the right people who have the right information. You're definitely going to want to be at that retreat. And the third and last reason that you're definitely going to want to be on that list is because he's going to send you guys out informational things from time to time that are literally going to help you move the needle. No mental masturbation, none of this bullshit. Real tangible results from guys who have built real tangible businesses and helped men get real tangible results. And so go follow him on Instagram. Make sure you get into that list. And Chase, is there anything that you'd like to end this episode with?
I'll drop one more that came up. You know, a lot of people say you are a reflection of the 5 people with whom you spend the most time, and I like to flip that one on its head. 5 people with whom you spend the most time are a direct reflection of you. They're a reflection of your habits, your choices, and your values. And if you don't like who you're around, change who you are.
Damn, bro, that's good. All right, there's nothing left to say. We're going to end it there. Hey, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Make sure you subscribe to the show. Go ahead and comment. Tag me on Instagram if you guys watch it. Give me any takeaways that you guys shared. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next episode.